I quickly got up. It was past 7 AM already. I packed my stuff together, ate an energy bar and got on my bike. I slept more than 8 hours, but it definitely didn't feel like it. What's even worse that now I was a complete day behind my schedule. I really didn't have time for mistakes like this. I had to get back to Budapest in time to be able to rest before the race, and I also have to finish the divide before my batteries completely got depleted. I came up with a very ambitious plan. I have around 500 kilometers left. If I can get to checkpoint 7, which is about 300 kilometers away, and also have to cross Hungary's 2 biggest mountain for it, the next day would be an easy 200 kilometers and it would be possible for me to finish in 6 days. Still not the 4 to 5 days that I intended, but still I could get home before the race. I rolled down the mountain and stopped at a grocery store to buy some food. I checked my phone and I got a message from the organizers. My tracker ran out of battery. I put it on my power bank, ate my breakfast and continued my journey. Not long after, I got a new message that said that the tracker is still off. As it turned out, the bank I was using was completely out of juice. I changed to my other one and hoped it will be enough. Well, it wasn't. I lost the tracker's charging cable on the downhill section. It was on 27%, no way it's going to last until the end. Sadly, it was a mini USB cable, which is a rare thing nowadays, and it's very hard to replace, especially in the middle of nowhere. I talked with the organizers and they said that I should keep going and I can validate my completion later on Strava. It certainly wasn't an optimal situation, but it was still one less thing to worry about and one less thing to charge. I was more worried about my Achilles. It got worse and worse. I was less than third way through my day, but I could barely put down power with my right leg. I was looking for a pharmacy to buy painkillers and some gel for my problem. This part of Hungary is not really filled with these kind of things. I stopped in multiple villages but was unable to find anything. Luckily, a bit later, when I asked the usual "do you have a pharmacy here?" question, somebody offered me some painkillers and told me that not far from here there's a small town where I should be able to find anything I need. Fortunately, the course was also going through that town, but I had to hurry. I checked on my phone and it was closing in 1.5 hours and it was still 20 kilometers away. Soon the painkiller started to work, so I could push harder again. I arrived 15 minutes before closing time. To celebrate this small victory, I decided to have dinner in a restaurant. At this point, it was more than 24 hours since I ate something other than energy products, biscuits or seeds. After resting there for an hour altogether, I began climbing Matra, the tallest mountain in the country. It might be the tallest, but it's only 1014 meters high, so not that mind-blowing. The course was on the most direct way, so it took me about 4 hours to get there, but finally checkpoint 6 was done too. It was 10 PM at this point, and it started to rain, which scared me a bit because the temperature was also dropping rapidly. But it went away quickly, so I decided to continue my way to checkpoint 7. On the way down, I found out that the batteries for my high-power light that I charged last night were almost useless. They died after about an hour. Well, not completely, the light was still working in low-power mode, so I used that. It was really hard and risky to ride like that, but I had to do it because I had only one battery that was able to run the light in high mode, and even that was a slightly used one. I had maybe 2 or 3 hours in it. My smaller power bank was completely gone, and the other one was below 25%. My headlight was also dead. My phone was below 10% too. I was completely screwed on the power segment. But other than that, I was mostly fine. I had a great pace until I reached the bottom of Mountain Buk. Here I was so sleepy that I could barely keep my eyes open. The low-powered light didn't help either. I couldn't really make out what I was seeing, it was a complete mess in my head. Finally, at 5 AM, I stopped at the bus stop and took a 10 minutes long power nap. The 10 minutes made things so infinitely better and easier, it's very hard to explain. I was still tired of course, but more than capable to continue my journey with renewed power. 1.5 hours later, I was able to reach the top, able to reach the final checkpoint. It was an unmanned one, but they left some Red Bulls there. Just what I needed, because I'm not going to stop now. I might have 290 kilometers and almost 24 hours of riding behind me, but I have to push while I can. I don't know why, but I feel the power now, and I have to use this to my advantage. What I don't feel right now is the need to spend another night in the woods, because I won't have the battery power for that. So let's go! Rolling down from Buk was basically free 20 to 25 kilometers where I barely had to pedal at all. It felt good to be able to rest a bit and still make some distance. I really wanted to get to the finish before the sun goes down, otherwise I might be screwed. I still had a lot of energy bar and gel left, more than enough for the day, so the fuel shouldn't be a problem. For the first 120 km from Buk, the road conditions were mostly awesome. There were some rough gravel sections between the long tarmac ones, but nothing significant. The elevation change also had a great rhythm. There were no long climbs and I could almost always go full brakeless on the downhill parts, so I could conserve some energy. I felt awesome, I felt indestructible. Until I didn't anymore. After 120 kilometers, there were noticeable change in the tarmac to gravel ratio. Also, that was a time when I suddenly hit a wall and felt like crap. I mean an imaginary wall. I still had 80 kilometers left, and I knew that the last 40 kilometers will be a bad quality mountainous gravel section. 80 kilometers might not sound so much, but remember that at this point I already had more than 400 kilometers and almost 30 hours in my leg. My performance dropped rapidly. I tried another 10 minutes long power nap after stopping by a grocery store, but it didn't help anymore. I have never ever suffered so badly in my entire life, and I'm absolutely not exaggerating right now. I was frustrated by anything that didn't help me advance on my way. I didn't know how to take steep climbs, I didn't have the power to ride them, but my Achilles was so bad at this point that I could barely push up the bike with painkillers in my body, and the worst part was still in front of me. I felt lost. And then, I don't know what happened, but after hours of agony, something changed for the better, just as I began the so fearless section. Maybe it was a double caffeine tablet that I mixed in, but I'm not sure. At this point, about half of my body weight was pure caffeine, I think. Well, to be honest, I didn't really care what happened and why it happened, I was just glad that I have some power again. I wasn't fine at all, don't get me wrong, but I didn't feel terrible anymore at least, and that was enough for me to be able to push through the final mountain. And finally, after 5 days, 10 hours and 6 minutes, I reached the finish. I was a bit out compared to the original 4 to 5 days plan, but I was still satisfied with the results. Especially with my last stage, I still don't know how I did it. It was a 488.8 kilometers long ride, with 7,861 meters of elevation gain, and I spent 36.5 hours in the saddle. I just don't know how I did it. I don't think that I would be able to do this again. All in all, it was a great experience, full of highs and lows, sometimes switching between them multiple times in a matter of minutes. I expanded my limits, I learned new things about myself, what I'm capable of. I might have lost 5 kilograms by the end of the journey, but the guy who came out at the end was still more than the one who went in at the beginning. And that's the most important thing. To improve, to be more. This was a great physical challenge, no doubt, but it was 1,000-fold harder mentally. If your body doesn't suffer some serious damage like a broken bone or a torn muscle that will leave you physically unable to finish an event like that, your mental power will always be your last barrier that will determine whether you finish or not. It's very rare when I say that, but I'm proud of myself. Thank you everyone who helped me reach the finish, especially the main organizer Marci, who always motivated and backed me up mentally. Also, big thanks to the kind woman who gave me the painkiller in Nagybárkány. Without it, I would have stood no chance to reach the pharmacy in time, and I'm pretty sure the end of the story would have been very different if I arrived 15 minutes later after it's been closed. So, that was the story of my 5.5 days. I hope you enjoyed it, or even better, I hope I gave you the inspiration to participate in a bikepacking event in the future. Pro tip, if suffering is not your thing, you can always aim at the time limit and take it easy so you can really enjoy the experience in the classical term. Thank you for watching, have a nice day.